One of the questions we get asked all of the time is, what is equity? How do I use it? Who do I talk to? Now, equity is incredible. It's as good as cash, and in the right market, especially one where prices have gone up by almost 20% in Australia in the last year, it's a really good time to be talking to your mortgage broker about this one. So come and enjoy.
So we just want to start by saying that we are not financial advisors or mortgage brokers. So this is not advice in any way, shape or form. But to get things started, bro, what is equity?
Equity is honestly incredible, right? So let's say, you went and bought a $400,000 home, and now that home is worth $800,000. And let's say on that $400,000 home, you owed 300 grand debt. So
Okay.
equity, simply explained, is the difference between the 800 grand value and the 300 grand debt. So theoretically, there's $500,000 of equity there. Now, I will say you can't just go to the bank and go, give me the full 500K, because it really depends on what you can earn, obviously your borrowing capacity, and they only normally lend up to a certain threshold. But if you're in that sort of strong position, it does give you a heap of choices.
Sure. So like a real-time example of this is like the property that I bought back in May of 2021 for $460,000. If I were to go to the bank today and they said, hey, Simon, we value your property at $540,000, essentially that $80,000 is the equity that I've gained in the property.
That's exactly it, man.
Okay, cool. So how can I access that to purchase my next property?
I love that. Like, it's as simple as going and talking to your bank manager or your mortgage broker and saying, hey, can you please order a valuation on my property? Now, huge tip, especially for those of you who haven't done this before, valuations always come back way lower than market value sales, and that's fine. Don't get upset about it. It's just the banks being conservative, and that's why Australia has such a good banking system. But you effectively get the broker or the bank manager to order your valuation, and then effectively they'll come back and say, look, we've valued it, it's in line and you don't have access to equity, or hey, it's gone up by a couple of $100,000 or 100 grand, and of that 100 or 200K, we'll lend you X amount, whatever that looks like.
So if you've got a rising market and a little bit of equity in your home, sometimes it can make it a little bit easier to purchase that next property or next investment property, because rather than having to save up that $100,000 worth of cash, you can just release that from the property. And I guess that's one of the major benefits of investing in real estate.
I love that, man. Like, we've got countless clients that bought property in the last 5 years, and many of them have been reaching out. And, some of them have said, hey, Ben, appreciate the place you bought for me for 400K. Just got revalued at 650 grand. My bank manager or my brokers told me I've got $150,000. I've talked to them, and the next step after the valuation, they tell you what you can borrow is, well, that's cool that you can, you have it, but can you actually borrow enough money to buy another home? And for those people that can, then the bank takes that money out. They put it into an account, which you can then use as the down payment or the deposit for your next property.
I love that so much. This is one of the biggest bonuses of being a property investor, because I like that fact that, you can put $100,000 of your own cash down in the beginning to buy, let's say, a $500,000 property, but then for the next property, provided that you bought that $500,000 property well, you don't necessarily have to put any of your own cash down. You can use some of that equity, and saves you having to go through that process of saving a deposit every time. But it sounds as though obviously that debt position is going to be higher and we need to pay that back.
Absolutely. Like, it's not free money, and I suppose one of the negatives associated with using equity as 100% of your deposit is on that next property you buy, if it's worth 400K, theoretically you owe the $400,000 of debt. So it's really, really important, if you're using equity, to make sure you talk to your accountant, your mortgage broker, your bank manager, or your financial advisor, and you figure out a safe position to be in. But the benefit is exactly that. And so, there's that age-old saying that money makes money, and in property, that is certainly the case, because it is really, really difficult to save that first 100K. But if your property has risen in the last 2 or 3 years by 100 grand, then, effectively you can use that you can run to the bank and you can go for it. And I think, in terms of an important next step, it's as simple as talking to your broker, talking to your bank manager, talking to your team of advisors. And if you can borrow, thinking if you can safely go and buy again. And if you can't, that's completely cool too. Just ask them the question, well, what do I have to improve about my financial position to consider going again?
I love that. I might have to go book a meeting with the mortgage broker soon then, hey?
You said no more properties this year. Me too.
No, thank you so much for giving us all that info, Ben. I really appreciate it. And for all of you out there, guys, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Leave us a comment below. And if you'd like to go over to our Instagram page or Facebook, give us a follow or give us a like. We are bringing weekly content regarding Australian property market, property investing to our channels every single week. So we'd love for you guys to stay informed so you can get out there, invest safely, and most of all, have some fun. Sweaty, so sweaty. Oh, that's good.